Mayor, we don't see Mr. Bernal on yet. Do you want to proceed or wait for him?
Let's proceed. The first few, I believe, are items that'll give us some time for him to get on.
Okay. Okay, it is now 5:02, and this is the regular meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5, Section 551.041 of the Texas Government Code of the Texas Open Meetings Act. This is the notice that was given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville will hold their regular meeting on Tuesday, September 1st at 5 p.m. via Zoom teleconference meeting. The link to the Zoom teleconference was provided on the City of Brownsville website under the Agenda Center. The members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting hosted through the Zoom teleconference were given the link and the telephone numbers to join. Members of the public who submitted a public comment form will be permitted to offer public comments as provided by the agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting. A recording of the meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. So now we will have the roll call. Mayor Mendez.
I'm here.
Commissioner Cowan.
I'm here.
Commissioner Galansky Kazania.
Present.
Commissioner Munguia.
Present.
Commissioner Gowan.
Present.
Commissioner Tetro. Okay. Commissioner Neese.
I'm here.
Okay, and the first, we're calling the meeting to order at 5:04 p.m. and we will now have the invocation by Pastor Brad Burke.
Let's pray. Father God, we thank you once again for the beautiful city we live here in Brownsville. We thank you for the many blessings we have. And Father God, for all of those that were affected by the hurricanes recently, we ask you to bless them as they recover. Those that lost loved ones, we ask you to bring healing and comfort to them. Lead and guide our leaders as they direct the efforts. And Lord, those in our city who have lost loved ones through the sickness, we ask you to comfort them and bless them. Those that still need healing, we ask you to bring it to them and draw all of us closer to you. And Lord, as we're in this highly political time, we ask you to heal our nation and bring us together. During this election season, we ask you to protect the unity of our nation. Lead and guide each of us in the way we discuss political issues so that we will still be friends afterwards. And Lord, I ask you for this meeting tonight to lead and guide our mayor, our city commissioners, and everyone that presents anything. We ask you for your blessing on this meeting for the best for the city of Brownsville. We ask all of these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. And now let's have a short moment of silence where everyone can add their prayers to what has been spoken. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Next item is going to be a proclamation. Commissioner Galansky, will you be reading that?
Yes, I think we're going to start out though with a video of United Way.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Michael Limas, and I'm this year's campaign chair for the United Way of Southern Cameron County. During times of crisis and uncertainty, people band together to support one another. This year is a test of our collective strength. Millions are on lockdown, businesses are closing, and unemployment is on the rise. Now more than ever, it's become increasingly more challenging to feed the kids, pay the rent, or even keep the lights on. United Way and our partners have strategized and pivoted to tackle our community's biggest issue right now: food insecurity. Our United Against Hunger initiative is getting more food to more people more quickly by employing furloughed restaurant workers at food pantries, Meals on Wheels, and local soup kitchens.
I'm Hugo Srita. I'm the executive director here at the Good Neighbor Settlement House. Our food program provides hot meals and emergency pantry packs for families in need.
I'll just go ahead
In
and
March,
start
we
with
saw
the
a significant
proclamation.
increase in demand in our kitchen and food pantry. We found ourselves in a critical state, lacking help and capacity. We received credit to purchase food and got paid volunteers through the Get Shift Done initiative. Together, we have served over 1,500 families with emergency food supplies and have served over 31,000 meals since March.
Hi, my name is Emily Rodriguez, and I am a recent UTRGV graduate. I found myself in a tough spot when the restaurant I worked at closed due to the concerns of the customers and the community. That's when United Way of Summer and Cameron County approached me to coordinate the Get Shift Done program, which is part of United Against Hunger. The Get Shift Done program pays restaurant and service employees like me who have lost their jobs to work at shifts to help provide hunger relief. The workers are paid to do what they do best, get food to people quickly and efficiently. We've hired over 150 workers in our area, giving their income a boost while they lend a hand in different organizations during unprecedented demands.
United Against Hunger is a partnership led by United Way of Southern Cameron County to battle the food insecurities in our community. It's important work, but it's not the only work we're doing. We're still doing everything we did before the pandemic, but now more than ever before, by bringing together people and organizations that help those in our community who have been hit the hardest by the COVID-19 pandemic and all of the economic hardships that have come with it. We work with all of our community partners every day to make sure that no one in our community goes hungry.
We need your help. Donate today by filling out a pledge form and join the fight. We cannot win this without you. Now more than ever, we must live united.
Okay, Commissioner, you can read the proclamation now.
Thank you. I'm happy to present this proclamation to the United Way of Southern Cameron County. It is a proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing United Way of Southern Cameron County. Whereas United Way of Southern Cameron County fights for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in our community. And whereas the March 17th, 2020 shelter-in-place order that took effect in Brownsville and was subsequently replicated throughout the entire Rio Grande Valley aggravated the food insecurity problem that already existed in our community. And whereas prior to sheltering in place, United Way of Southern Cameron County had already anticipated various problems that the coronavirus pandemic would create and started surveying stakeholders and evaluating strategies to address these issues, considering both food insecurity and disproportionate unemployment levels among restaurant workers. And whereas United Way of Southern Cameron County formed a partnership now known as United Against Hunger, and whose primary mission is to address issues of food insecurity. Initial partners included the Brownsville Wellness Coalition, the University of Texas Health School of Public Health, Brownsville Regional Campus, Congressman Filemon Vela, and the City of Brownsville. Original funders were United Way of Southern Cameron County, Brownsville Community Foundation, Brownsville Foundation for Health and Education, Wells Fargo Foundation, Union Pacific Foundation, Global Giving, United Way Worldwide COVID-19 Relief Fund, Communities Foundation of Texas Get Shift Done Fund, the Valley Baptist Legacy Foundation, and one very generous anonymous donor who has requested utmost privacy, in addition to many individual donors who contributed anywhere between $10 to $75,000. And whereas the United Way of Southern Cameron County has raised over $1.2 million since April 2020 to fight food insecurity, and with that money has added capacity to the Ozanam Center, Good Neighbor Settlement House, and the Brownsville Wellness Coalition. Additionally, United Way of Southern Cameron County has purchased equipment to facilitate food distribution, hired many furloughed restaurant workers through the Get Shift Done initiative, and coordinated the bi-weekly, sometimes weekly mass food distributions held at the Southmost Public Library, Brownsville Event Center, or Vestedo Middle School. Whereas the morning of August 21st, 2020 alone, during the mass food distribution at Bastedo Middle School, 3,072 fresh produce boxes and 1,600 bags of canned and dried goods were distributed. 886 cars and 20 pedestrians were served. 6 organizations and 15 volunteers collaborated, and 9 food pantries were restocked. A few hours later, they did it again. A smaller scale food distribution was held at the Good Neighbor Settlement House. And a few hours after that, a volunteer group in a different part of town, it was the 421 in District 1, they gave us food so that we could distribute produce boxes and promote participation in the census in the city of Brownsville's lowest responding census tract. Day by day, United Way of Southern Cameron County and its partners are making a huge impact in Brownsville and all throughout the RGV to reduce food insecurity. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the charter of said city, and on behalf of all of our citizens, do hereby recognize United Way of Southern Cameron County and encourage our residents of Brownsville to celebrate their contributions to our community, done on this, the first day of September 2020. Congratulations, everyone. I'm really proud of all the work you've done.
Great job, y'all. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for everything you've done.
I don't know if Tracy or maybe your board chair would like to say something.
Board Chair Terry Capistran and Campaign Chair Michael Lemus would like to say something if that's possible.
I'll go ahead and kick it off. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to the entire commission and mayor for this amazing proclamation. I also want to say a huge thank you and commend the city commission and mayor along with the leadership of the city of Brownsville for doing a fantastic job throughout this very troubling time. And furthermore, in regards to the United Against Hunger, food insecurity is a real thing. We're seeing it week in and week out. We've had tremendous support from volunteers, from donors, as you mentioned, and the work is not done. And it's not going away anytime soon. And we continue to need this support on a weekly basis. It is quite amazing to see the food distribution in action. It is like a New York City symphony, the way that they coordinate logistically how everything is happening. So it's really, really amazing to see the collaboration amongst community members. And I do want to say that it is still not over and we still need support. We're in the swing of things right now with our campaign. And again, we thank you for noticing. We thank you for supporting us through this entire challenging time frame. And again, we're here as far as the organization that wants to do the most impact for the community. So on behalf of the board of directors, I would like to kick it on over to Ms. Terry Capistran and thank the board of directors for doing a tremendous job and also providing significant support during this time. Terry?
Thank you so much, Michael. And thank you to all of our city commissioners and to Mayor Mendez for collaborating with us. It truly takes a team effort, collaboration to make great things happen. One can do one thing, but together we can do countless things. And the efforts that were celebrated today are an example of what a community can do when we all collaborate together. With me today, we have a few other United Way board members. We have Ms. Dalia Aguilar. We have Ms. B. Wadis, and I'm trying to go through everyone. I don't want to miss anyone. I know that Norma from the city is also here, Norma Zamora, and Tracy Wickett, our president from United Way. And it takes everyone collaborating together to make great things happen. And this example that is being celebrated tonight is one of the many things that together our city and United Way are able to do to help all of our communities. So on behalf of the board, I thank the mayor and the city commissioners for recognizing the effort that was put into place a couple months ago, but is helping out thousands of people. So again, thank you so much for the recognition, but most importantly, thank you for all the support that was given through the police support, allowing us to have these events on the city grounds and working together to ensure that no one goes hungry. So again, thank you so much. Miss Tracy?
All I can do is echo the thank yous. Thank you for noticing what we're doing. Thank you for helping us with what we're doing. At United Way of Southern Cameron County, we have emblazoned on our conference room wall, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I think this is going to be a very long walk. And we're very happy that you're going with us on this journey. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. This has been a great initiative. I remember when it first started, you know, some of the workers, restaurant workers were getting involved, and they're still involved, and it's been a really efficient operation. I've been really impressed, and you guys have done a fantastic job just distributing so many bags of food, much needed to the community. So I'm really grateful for everything you've done, and on behalf of the community and everybody else, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our next item, which is our presentations. We have presentation by Karen Hansfield, Urban Development Good Neighbor Program, U.S. General Service Administration, and Jason Bernagros, Office of Community Revitalization, Environmental Protection Agency, a new vision for gateways, bridges, public spaces, a federal project re-engages stakeholders, an amendment to Greening America's Communities, Brownsville.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen Hansfield. I work for the U.S. General Services Administration for a program called the Good Neighbor Program, and I am based in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak to you tonight, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, and any members of the public who are joining us. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to be the sole presenter, but I'm joined tonight by my colleagues in this effort. From EPA, I have Jason Bernagros online. Jason, do you want to say hi?
Hi, I'm very glad to be presenting to all of you tonight.
Great, and also Jason Williams, who works with me at GSA, and when the Land Port of Entry modernization occurs, he will be the project manager for the design and construction project. Jason, would you like to say hello as well?
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for having us, and we hope to work together in the future to have a successful project.
Great, thank you. And I believe Randy Rush was going to join us, but I didn't see him on the call. Randy, are you here? Okay, I will go ahead and proceed. Can you open the PowerPoint presentation? Thank you. So again, this is a report that we produced in collaboration with the Environmental Protection Agency and also with the professional staff and community members in Brownsville. Is everybody able to see the presentation clearly?
Honey, it already started.
Okay. So we have, this report is produced at the end of a technical assistance process that began last year when the world was a very different place. And again, so we are, our condolences go out to everybody who is struggling in these times. We recognize that this is probably not the high priority right now, but we do think it's an exciting project and something that people should be preparing for the future. So this project builds onto a Greening America's Communities project that Brownsville had already done with EPA. And that project looked at specific spaces around Brownsville and how those spaces could be improved using smart development and green infrastructure types of techniques. One of the places that that report looked at specifically was the adjacency to the Brownsville Gateway Land Port of Entry and where it intersects with University Boulevard, International Boulevard, and Elizabeth Street. So when we were aware that that project had taken place, we were looking at the GSA feasibility study. You see an image of it on your screen here. When GSA moves forward with a modernization project for this port, the feasibility study as proposed looks at changing that intersection in a very dramatic way. And you can see on your screen here, it is proposing a traffic circle in what is currently public space and sort of a sea of asphalt there right outside the Land Port of Entry. And what you can see in this diagram here is that the way that traffic is going to enter the port and also exit the port is very, very different. But what that also means is it opens up new areas for public space. And so that's really what this technical assistance effort looked at. If GSA is going to move forward with a design that's somewhat similar to this and construct that traffic circle in order to allow the new operations on the port, there's a real opportunity there to think about what those public spaces can become. You see a rather large space adjacent to the duty-free shop there, as well as a space interior to the traffic circle. And so what this technical assistance effort was work between GSA and EPA and the city of Brownsville. We did a 3-day in-person workshop at the beginning of February, again, right before the world changed rather dramatically. And we had a lot of different meetings with different people. And what we did, if you'll advance to the next slide, is present 2 vision ideas to get the conversation started. So we could tease out from the people who live and work and manage this space into what would be useful to the city of Brownsville, what would be exciting to the city of Brownsville, what supports the plans that you already have for your city and feeds into that pattern of development. So option 1 was a pass-through space. So looking at that traffic circle as a place that people use to get from point A to point B. And maybe that new plaza adjacent to the duty-free shop is more of a gathering space. Both of these options, option 2 is more of a shady gathering space. So you can imagine a space in the center, maybe it's oriented around artwork or a water feature or something like that, but has more of a plaza component to it. And then still has that space adjacent to the duty-free shop. In both schemes, there was a real effort to focus in on shady, leafy, cool space, things that are very important when you're dealing with high temperatures and high humidity a lot of time, giving people a place to escape that heat, even if momentarily as they pass through. We go on to the next slide. So over the course of the 3 days that we met with everyone, what we heard from people, the space in the traffic circle is very exciting, as is that new idea of the plaza, but in current behavioral places, people are using that sidewalk along Elizabeth Street and University Boulevards most heavily when they're exiting the port. And you can see here the exit to the port down in the lower right-hand side of the screen brings pedestrians out a little bit further than they're used to walking into downtown Brownsville. So we heard from attendees, make that pedestrian experience really as special as it can be and really as welcoming as it can be and as safe as it can be. We heard a lot of positive feedback, the idea of planting a lot of trees, making the space very lush, with green infrastructure incorporated into the spaces, maintaining the existing shade trees in that Xeriscape park that's currently on site. You can't grow shade trees like that overnight, and they really are something very special. We did not hear a clear preference from community members or from staff on whether they thought it should be a pass-through space or more of a plaza or gathering type space. So in the report, we've included both options as something to view and to consider. We heard very concretely that people wanted vehicular traffic to slow down and for pedestrian safety to be prioritized in whatever the final design looks like. Also to incorporate bicycle use for those same ways, make sure bikes can get through and around this new traffic environment safely and efficiently. We heard a lot of positive feedback from the green infrastructure components. So the idea of managing as much stormwater on site as possible so you can keep it from flowing into the Resacas for as long as possible. And then support for art and signage, especially focusing on the rich cultural tradition, the bi-national community that Brownsville recognizes. So you go on to the next slide. So this is all really great, and I'm sure we can all envision a lot of plans that people produce and then, sort of falls by the wayside and gathers dust. And we never want any of the work that we do to do that. So what are the follow-ups here? For GSA, again, what we really heard and what is very much under our control is along Elizabeth Street and University Boulevards, looking at that sidewalk that currently is fairly chopped up as it passes across various driveways and otherwise passes along walls and fence lines, making that space special. So the project has not been designed yet. We have not received funding for design. But as we enter that phase of the project, whenever that funding comes through, making sure that we maximize the width of that sidewalk to the extent that's possible with the traffic circle design, making sure that the wall is not just a wall, and I say wall very loosely. What I mean is any perimeter adjacent to the land port of entry there. We don't know what it'll be yet, but if it's a fence line, if it's a building wall, if it's a more structural wall, making sure that it's a special experience. And so that is what GSA needs to follow up on as we move through our own project management. If you move through, and I think just one other thing to point out here, that if you'll return to the previous slide, this just gives an image of with the existing sidewalk, and that's what the feasibility study originally proposed, was the existing sidewalk width. It doesn't give people a lot of space. And I think we're very much in a place and time now in our communities and in our nation that we have identified a need that people need more space, whether that is in a pandemic environment or just in sort of personal safety space away from the traffic, giving people more space. In terms of what this means for you in the city of Brownsville, and we did have Commissioner Pizzana join us for one of our public sessions. What are the next steps? So the thing to realize about the GSA design and construction project for the land port of entry is that GSA will be responsible for constructing that traffic circle and that space adjacent to the duty-free shop and all the that go into the streetscape. So the curb lines, the structure, the pavement. What GSA is not going to be doing is any of the site beautification or improvements on top of that, nor will GSA be responsible for maintaining them over the long term. So those are really the points where it become very important, not only for the city of Brownsville to have a good idea of what they want to see in that site and to be collaborating with GSA through the process once we receive funding, but then also to tee up the resources in advance. We don't know when the funding will come through. That's not something that GSA has control over. That is decided by Congress. But we want to make sure that everybody has an awareness of what the opportunities are and make sure that your grant writers are aware of cycles for grants that would be applicable here, that things can be worked into the capital budget in time, that people are talking to TxDOT and any other partners who would have to be party to any MOA that allows GSA to do the work on the non-GSA property that we would need to do. So this slide shows sort of a before and after. This is in the report, what the vision could be for this. You're looking north here on International Boulevard. Right now, again, it's pavement, and what it could be if it had a plaza there, a piece of artwork, a water feature, something that people can sort of gather around, really feeds into the work that you've already done right in that very corridor for beautification and improvement. And similarly, this is an image of the traffic circle and what it would look like if you planted, trees seasonally that bloom occasionally, provided a lot of that shade, implemented a lot of that green stormwater infrastructure. So if you'll advance one more slide, please. The other thing that's important to note in the report and what we included is we wanted to give people a sense of what a collaboration schedule would look like. So something to keep in mind again is that this is not a firm set in the ground process. This is not exactly how the GSA design and construction process will go. That'll be determined by the needs of the project once we have the funding and know what we're able to move forward with. But to give you an idea, and I know this is hard to read here, you should have a copy of this presentation circulated to you, so you'll be able to read it hopefully at a font size that works for you. But the overview is looking at what's anticipated to be something between a 4 and a 5 year project schedule. So 2 years for design, 2 to 3 years for construction. On the left side is what GSA is going to be doing during that time. On the right side is sort of our best guess as a technical assistant effort at what are the touch points for the city of Brownsville and the useful actions for you to be taking as well. So I don't want to talk any further in case anybody has any questions in this limited time. But again, thank you so much for not only participating in this process and producing what I think is a very exciting report, only because it's a very exciting project. And on a personal level, I would love to see this get funding very, very soon so that something like this can be implemented. But again, for allowing us to present to you today as well. So thank you.
I have some questions and comments. A couple of years ago, I'm going to say maybe 3 years ago, I don't know if Doro or Ramiro are on the Zoom today. The EPA conducted a study downtown in this area. I was on the walkthrough that went through that whole process, and it was very great. There are a lot of features that you've indicated that are similar to that process, except for one. We passed a complete streets resolution many years ago, and there's only one of your slides that even shows a bicycle. And really, the comment that it was indicated that somebody in the public asked for it is really not enough. As you pass and as we pass these designs and images to funders as we move forward, it should clearly indicate that we expect that area to be a complete street, meaning bicycles, pedestrians, as well as car traffic. There is a protected bike lane from about where Jacob Brown abuts onto that road back over to a university that we fought hard for to win in a grant for alternate transportation several years ago. Your diagrams don't even show that, which makes me wonder if you're planning to do away with it or enhance it and enrich it. So I think
Sure,
it's
and
wonderful and beautiful,
Yeah.
but you need to adjust your pictures, your images, your diagrams to include discussion and images of complete streets and not just those for bicycles and for pedestrians and cars. You don't even have a little line for bicycle travel. You only have a yellow line for pedestrians or red and the other color for cars. You need to change that. It's very important as we market this for funding.
Sure. And so I
That
have
one.
a couple of comments on what you've said. So I think what I didn't say at the outset and ought to have is the Greening America's Communities process that you participated in is the lead into this report. This is actually an amendment to this report. So that report will live in total with the part that you participated in. This will be an addendum at the end of it. So all those good things that you fought for and you expressed will continue to live in the report and are very much embodied in this report. That said, because I had 10 minutes, I condensed this report quite a lot into a couple of slides. It doesn't show all the text that's included, and that discusses bicycle and pedestrian movement. And then finally, I would say, use this as a vision plan. The feasibility study from GSA did not address bicycles. So that's something that we very much heard from the community during this process and is emphasized in our report. But what we want to make sure you understand is don't look at any of these pictures and think that this is a final design. It is a vision, and it is something that GSA will produce in collaboration, especially in that public space, in collaboration with the community, while still meeting the needs of what Customs and Border Protection and the other federal agencies on the land and port of entry need for their mission reasons. So yeah.
And I understand that. Can you go back 2 slides? So you saw a red line and a yellow line, but this diagram does not show a line for bicycles. Can you go forward 1 slide? Can you go forward 1 slide? Nope, forward, the other way. There, you have existing conditions, available pedestrian space and drive, but you don't have a complete street cross section with the bicycle.
Right.
And this is important because we are lobbying the ports to add, Commissioner Neese and I and Ramiro Gonzalez went to speak to the port director not that long ago about adding a dedicated bicycle lane for the hundreds of people that cross the bridge on bicycles. So it's a great, beautiful thing, and I love it, and I hope we get it, but it needs to have the complete vision of all of those abilities to have that transportation across the bridge in both ways.
Yeah, no, and I understand, and I definitely do not disagree with you on that. The report is in its final stage at this stage, but on the call right now, you have the 2 people at GSA who will be involved in overseeing the design and construction process. So, please continue to be a voice in this process. Continue to make yourself heard in the community, because ultimately, like I said, some of the beautification efforts and site improvement efforts will be the responsibility of Brownsville. And I'm sorry, Commissioner Neese, are you trying to speak?
Yeah, I was just going to let you know, the point of contact back at the time that Commissioner Gowan was talking about was Laura Gomez from the EPA. So she was involved at the initiation of that greening of the gateway area. So the other guys from EPA may know her, but she would probably be a good person to talk to about it.
Absolutely. And like I said, these 2 reports exist together in EPA and in GSA's mind. So this is not a standalone report. It's an add-on to the work that was already done that we both referenced with the Greening America's Communities report. So the bikeway that exists along Texas Southmost University there, that all exists in that report. And the team was both well aware of it and talked with the community about those elements in all of these workshops.
Thank you.
Thank
I guess,
you.
Mayor Commissioner, this is Juan Garza, the Mobility Director. I just want to provide some comments. Moving forward, I know we'll be working closely both with GSA, TxDOT, and the MPO. It's something that we've been talking to Karen in the last meeting. We'll be adding this agenda item also to the RGV MPO meeting. And so, Commissioner Gowan, thank you for those comments. Yes, it's something that we'll look at. These are just illustrations, I guess, for now. once we go to the actual design, we'll make sure we implement a more of a complete street aspect.
In my own defense, I would like to say I'm a car-free household who gets around exclusively by bicycle. So you certainly have a champion in me.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
No, but I think it's a wonderful thing to do. So thank you.
Great, thank you. We really appreciated working with your community. It was a wonderful experience.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to our public comment period. We had one public comment form received from Steve Rodriguez, and he lives at 2776 Vienna Street. Steve, are you with us?
He did send a chat to the entire webinar, so I believe he may be on. If not,
I am here, sir.
Okay, great, Miss. Go ahead, Steve. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Mayor, first of all, thank you for having me on this chat on the Zoom, commissioners. The reason I want to speak, sir, is in reference to the event center. It's my understanding that the event center might be closing, and the reason is I have an Incinera scheduled on October 2021. I understand that it is a legal binding contract, and the first thing you do in Incinera is you get the venue, and everything else works around it, is my understanding. All right, so we've been doing this and we've had it paid off for over a year and a half. So I would please urge you guys to reconsider closing the event center. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir, and commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Appreciate your time, sir.
Okay, now we'll move on to our work session. The city, as a governmental body, the city commission will not vote or take formal action on any items discussed in the work session. The item is discussion regarding the city of Brownsville response to the urgent public necessity concerning COVID-19, otherwise known as coronavirus, including but not limited to A, continuity plan update, city staffing, facilities and services, including actions and continuity of such operations. B, financial update, emergency procurement, and C, drive-through collections / testing site update.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. This is Helen Ramirez, Deputy City Manager. Since March, the city has been agile and constant in its approach towards assisting businesses through COVID. And in that approach, we have created new ways of marketing, new financing programs, new courses that support new ways of doing businesses to assist our much needed businesses through this pandemic. This has taken shape through the collaboration of our economic development partners, including the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation, BCIC, the Chamber of Commerce, and the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, and Texas Southmost College. This included the mobilization of surveys of small business owners to gather feedback and create programs initiatives tailored to providing them direct assistance. So, for example, these decisions were not taken in a vacuum. These decisions on new programs or initiatives were because we heard the need for these different types of programs, services, and initiatives. Mr. Josh Mejia is the Executive Director of BCIC. He will outline some of the financing programs that were created through our Economic Development Corporation, one of which is a new program recently approved by the City Commission through additional Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, COVID funds. That is still awaiting the Department of Housing and Urban Development's approval, but I believe he's going to go ahead and highlight that new program. So Mr. Mejia, if you're on the line, please go ahead and this is your slide. Thank you. I will conclude with some city initiatives after his 3 slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Well, I think Helen could not said it a whole lot better than what she did right now. So I'm just, thankful for the opportunity to be able to present this update for you all, the City Commission, and for the mayor as well. As Helen mentioned, very early on, I believe it was around April time, the Economic Development Organization, BCIC, was quick in pivoting directions and being able to focus on programs that would provide resiliency for the community, just based on everything that we were seeing in regards to the effects of the pandemic in the business community. And we were successful, as I presented a couple of city commissions ago, what the program should look like. And we were able to develop 2 financial assistance programs. For a lack of time and creativity, we went ahead and entitled them Option A and Option B, both of which were designed to be able to incentivize businesses that were actively seeking funding assistance from the Small Business Administration, as the SBA was looking into receiving some funds from the CARES Act that was approved earlier on this year. And through the City Commission approval and the approval of the BCIC Board of Directors, we were able to mobilize quickly under the Startup Texas umbrella to provide some of this assistance to the small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and even large businesses in the community. Along with that, we were very capable of working with our partners, the City of Brownsville, the Brownsville Chamber of Commerce, and the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, to be able to create some sort of a mobilized approach and be able to survey what we now have over 876 businesses registered in our system, either via text message, via email, via phone call, that we constantly communicate back and forth to be able to understand exactly what the challenges have been early on and how these challenges have evolved with time and with the current mandates that are being imposed because of the coronavirus. And so in essence, I wanted to go ahead and provide you a little bit of the efforts that have been provided on behalf of all the groups. And as you can see in this slide, we have over 4,000 hours spent on the project. We have over 800 businesses that have been registered. This is information that was captured about 2 Fridays ago. So the number of total businesses registered is higher, as well as the total number of calls made and the total number of follow-up businesses, as you can see. But most importantly, initially the Economic Development Group went ahead and set aside $450,000 to be able to use and leverage to be able to obtain more funding to the business community. So after about 4.5 months now, what has that impact looked like in the community? Well, in the next slide, if we can go ahead and proceed, this is what we've essentially derived as an impact, an economic impact for the community. And this is just using the financial assistance that's been provided by BCIC for both Option A and Option B. Together, we've helped out 56 unique businesses, and we've actually helped retain a total of 1,280 employees that were considered at risk or were in that category of losing their jobs or being furloughed or laid off because of the financial strains that the pandemic was imposing on the business community of Brownsville. Till this day, we have allocated a total of $386,745 of BCIC funds that we've been able to leverage to be able to obtain $8,410,980 in both SBA funding, FEMA funding, and private community lending as well for the business community. So that's been the magnificent impact that we've been able to generate with just $450,000 that has been allocated from the Type B Economic Development Group. And I want to make sure that we recognize the value of this leverage, of this impact that we've been able to generate collectively with all our partners, because we were the first city to be able to mobilize quickly and provide local assistance to the business community in Rio Grande Valley. But more importantly, we were able to surpass eightfold the economic impact that we've been able to generate for the business community. Now, we understand completely that our resources are finite. And as much as we would like to have all the resources in the world to be able to assist every single business, we still continue to find new and creative ways to be able to stretch every single dollar that we have and provide these types of returns for the business community. And so through ongoing discussions and collaborations with the City of Brownsville, we actually pursued collectively CDBG funding from the Housing and Urban Development Department. And we've been successful enough to once again be able to obtain $500,000 or $500,000 to be able to create a new program, what I like to call a local PPP program, that will provide forgivable loans to those who continue to fall through the cracks. And I'm talking specifically for those who were unable to receive any type of assistance from FEMA, from SBA, unable to obtain loans through banks, and so on and so forth. So we still keep in mind that we have, a substantial amount of data that just justifies that there was a market, there was a need for additional assistance, and we're happy to be able to use, $500,000 to again be able to leverage and generate the economic impact that we need and promote the resiliency efforts of our community as well. So in our next slide, I want to just briefly talk about what our Deputy City Manager, Helen Ramirez, went ahead and provided you all. This again, for a lack of creativity, because we want to be fast moving and fast paced, we're just calling this option C. It's definitely more creative than just calling it option 3, I'll tell you that. But option C is going to provide that local microloan for businesses that are looking to retain employees as well. And this also includes the micro enterprises that are in our community. Now with HUD being involved as one of the funders, HUD also provides another layer of criteria to determine eligibility and the use for those funds. So we're going back and forth, the city and our staff here at BCIC, to be able to create a program that will soon launch in a couple weeks, that will be very straightforward, very easy to use, but also very beneficial in both ends, both for the economic development group and the applicant, so that we make realistic expectations for the use of funds and making sure that the economic impact is in fact there and it's equitable and inclusive for absolutely all businesses that are located within the city of Brownsville. So I wanted to just highlight 2 points, both of which are subject to change. One of them is that in our criteria or our guideline, we want to make sure that we demonstrate at least one full-time job that provides low to moderate income that would be considered at risk of being lost without financial assistance, or a micro enterprise of 5 or fewer employees, including the owner, that is owned by a low to moderate income individual and demonstrates potential business closure or layoffs if not provided financial assistance. So we've already identified a lot of these businesses from our current outreaching efforts, along with the Chamber, the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, and BCIC staff, and one staff member from the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. So we feel that this program, as soon as we open our doors and be able to accept applications, we'll be able to get a quicker turnaround of individuals that are looking to apply. And believe it or not, most of the businesses in our Brownsville community really fall under the category of financial assistance between $7,000 to maybe $11,000. And so by us being able to provide microloans that are forgivable from $5,000 to $10,000, I think we're hitting that sweet spot to be able to, again, generate the necessary impact and promote the resiliency efforts that our community needs to be able to just withstand this wave and be able to be able to innovate and continue to cultivate that beautiful business community that we have here in Brownsville, Texas. So in short and in summary, I just want to again be able to thank you all as the City Commission for the support that you all have provided for the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation, the City Manager's Office, and the rest of our partners that have been able to work diligently and make this program possible. Again, these economic impact numbers that we've shared with you is a direct result of the leadership and vision that you all place, but more importantly, the trust that you place on each one of the staff members that comprise these organizations. We very much look forward to the launch of Option C with our partners at the City Manager's Office. And more importantly, we look very much forward into this pandemic being yesterday's news and being able to move forward into a new era of this business community we so look forward to fostering and protecting as residents and stakeholders of our community.
Thank you,
Next
Judge.
slide. We have one more slide and we'll be done with this portion of the presentation. And just a quick thing, one of the things, as you know, we created downtown curbside zones where our downtown businesses who do not have drive-through areas, for the most part, created delivery zones where people can safely park, call a restaurant and get their food. So that has been successful and ongoing. We also did not charge for parking within our downtown to encourage that. As you know, we have had business training programs in collaboration with UTRGV, the e-commerce course to get our businesses online, our resiliency business plan, maybe new products and a way to support them and being agile. I know we had free courses were funded for 300 small businesses, 200, good to say, 200 have been utilized, but we still have 100 more, and an additional 300 available courses for the business plan element. So please, if you're listening and you're interested in this program, please go ahead and participate. Early on with Texas Southmost College, our health department participated in collaboration with them to create the disinfectant specialist certificate because our businesses and our employers did not know how to properly or wanted information on how best clean and disinfect their areas, and we pivoted and assisted with that. And then also the face mask challenge, a fun community challenge, and the America Care face mask donation of 20,000 masks. If you're a business that in need of masks, we please call 956-548-1055, and we'll go ahead and make sure we put that on Facebook for you. That's 956-548-1055, because the Brownsville Library will providing free curbside services and pickup for face masks for our businesses. And also the flexibility with the creation of new outdoor seating, whether it's a parklet or on a street where you're including outdoor seating, safe seating outdoors, or you have a retail tenant space area that has parking, and we want to create some of our shared parking into outdoor seating areas we're open to that concept and available to do that, to assist you with that. So that's some of the initiatives that the city has been looking at, and I'm very excited to be partnering with all our partners on this, and the chamber has been great at getting the word out. Thank you. Next slide, I believe Lupe is going to give an update on the financial update, if there are no questions.
Those are all great initiatives, Helen. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'll briefly go over the presentation. This presentation is similar to previous presentations I've given. I'll just give highlights on it. To date, through August 24th, spent about $7.9 million. This represents about $403,000 more than the last previous presentation. Two items that are attributed to is the implementation of the hazard pay stipend that got implemented in August, represents about $191,000, and the other $211,000 is attributed to testing, drive-through testing. Next slide, please. These are the buckets representing the expenditures broken down. $6.5 million. Next slide, please. Personal expenses, one of the largest amount. This is broken down by the different groups on here: police, fire, and other departments. Next slide, please. Like I mentioned previously, the bulk of the expenditures, about $211,000, have to do with drive-through testing. This represents about 1,700 additional testings from last report to this report. On testing kit costs, we had an increase of about $168,000, and operating costs about $43,000. Two other items to follow up on is on the current PPE inventory. Talking to our internal service department director, she confirms that we have at least 3 months worth of PPE supplies and inventory. And also, just as an update, this month of early month of August, early to mid, we actually went out for bids for PPE supplies. We were quite on August 26th. We actually received about close to 40 vendors that actually submitted their bids, and we're in the current process in evaluating those bids, and should be coming to the commission on that shortly after in a few couple weeks or so. That concludes the presentation. You have any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Lupe? Lupe, I do. What was the hazard pay stipend? Is
The
that
hazard-
per individual? How is that being done?
Right now, the full-time, there was a process to identify those employees that had direct contact or were selected through a process of the city managers and ODHR. It provided for a $500 a month stipend for full-time employees and $250 for part-time employees that qualified for this stipend.
Is that for fire and police as well?
Currently, police is the only one that actually has elected for the option of it. The fire has not elected to receive it yet.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
However, fire civilian staff, have been some identifying that have been included.
Not the civil service.
Yeah, not the civil service, but the others.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. We want to begin today by going over our daily case counts and give the latest. After the mayor amended Order 11, we've seen an almost trending of lower and decreasing cases. Our drive-throughs have shown that, and our positivity rate has been slowly edging slower. But the movement towards lower has been infractions. It hasn't been whole numbers. It's been a slow decline. This week in particular, we did see a slight increase, but it was a 0.4 increase in positivity cases. I think the big picture takeaway here is that, as you see in the slide, our case numbers have decreased and continue to decrease. And if you look at our 829 numbers, we're pretty much to what we were seeing that first week of June before we went into the last holiday, the Memorial Day holiday. Ironically, as we go into the Labor Day holiday, we're not wanting to see a repeat of what we saw during Memorial Day, but our numbers have taken almost 2 months to get us back to where we were pre-Memorial Day. Next slide. So some of our drive-through stats number, we've tested through the drive-through 15,211 individuals. At this point, we do have 297 samples pending for results. We have had 4,016 positives reported and 10,898 negatives reported. The breakdown for insured to uninsured has been a 42% insured to a 58% uninsured. Of that, the county has reported to us 11,783 cases. We estimate our recovery rate to be at 10,116, and our current positivity rate cumulative is 26.4. This information is updated as of August 31st. Next slide.
Dr. Rodriguez, what's the 7-day positivity?
It's back one slide. Yeah. The 7-day positivity rate?
Yeah, it's the next slide.
Oh, the next slide.
Yeah, right.
The 26 point, no, the 7-day, this is the cumulative.
Oh, okay,
I'll get that right to you. So on the establishment side, we have a running total of notices and visits that our inspectors continue to do. We, as the order mandates, that have included garage sales, 42 of those, and 61 to businesses, national retailers, local stores. We have had some openings of the cinema and the flea market this weekend, and we continue to monitor those locations as well. Next slide. So as you see here, our criteria for determining the threat matrix is based on the following criteria. Our PCR testing over 7 cases are at 914. So we've had a slight increase in testing from week over week. Our positivity rate, according to the county, is at 44.41%. Just keep in mind with this number that some of these cases that they're logging into their system may be as old as a month. And I would caution against taking too much on that number until they're caught up. They are fastly catching up, and I think week over week, you will see that positivity rate become more accurate. Our positivity rate through the drive-through is coming up at 39.16. But that's a 7-day week over week fluctuation. So when you do week over week, you're always going to get a more inflated positivity rate. Our current estimated 7-day positivity rate is 26.32. 26.32 at this time. And our hospital capacity from this morning, our ICU numbers continue to trend in the right direction. But as the hospital administrator mentioned to us on the call, we're always that one patient away or that one case that goes out and causes a COVID outbreak from taking the ICUs back to where we were 30 or even 60 days ago. Next slide. So Commissioner Tetreault, one of the things you've asked us to monitor and come back to you has been our year over year of death statistics. As of August, ending August in 2020, 131 have been recorded. This number is subject to change based on the date the death certificate was filed. So these numbers are preliminary. But when you compare to 2019 numbers of 90 and 2018 numbers of 80 deaths, this is where we currently stand in Brownsville. And just as a reminder to the public, there's always going to be a difference between the numbers of deaths reported in Brownsville versus the number of deaths reported by the county. And most recently, even the state changed the way they measure these numbers. So keep in mind, they're all running tallies and they're recorded at different time and dates. So the numbers will always be reflective differently. I think what you're getting here from us, from the Vital Statistics Office, though, is probably the most accurate portrayal of what's really occurring out in the community. Next slide. So I wanted to report, I was asked to report on the activity at the flea market this weekend. Overall, day one and day two had the same operating. The estimated occupancy at the flea market on day one was 12%. We estimate the occupancy to have been about 21% on day two, with visitors of 600 on day one and 1,005 on day two. Keep in mind a little factoid, the 77 flea market is about 77 acres. About half of those are parking and the other half are space that's used for rented. The average inspector this weekend, our teams logged in about 36 miles of walking at the flea market this weekend based on their steps that were recorded. So it just kind of gives you an idea for the vast open air market that we had. What we did observe was that there was 100%, our observations was there was 100% compliance on masks. I believe out of the 1,005 on Sunday, for example, we only had one individual who showed up without a mask. He probably purchased a mask or was actually given one by one of the vendors at no charge. And the second observation that we had over the 2-day period was that family groups, as you can see on the photo to the left, tended to understand, and many of them even brought their own sanitizer. The vendors had sanitizers at every table, and this vendor in particular on the photo actually erected a barrier for themselves. Family groups observed, many of them were less than 10. I would say the average number was three and four was really the most common theme that we saw. And it was very seldom that we observed groups even nearing 10. The tenants outdoors were open to air, and there were parts of the flea market, since I was operating at 25%, they were closed off. Specifically, aisle 1, most of that aisle was not open to the public. And if you remember the flea market, that's the part of the flea market that has the least crossover airflow. So for that reason, we worked with the family to avoid those areas of the flea market. overall, our recommendations was that for this coming week, they have many markers, but they need to be changed so they're more visible. There was a little bit of confusion from some of the people, so we're recommended that they use some fluorescent colors so that the public can visualize the markers and follow them. The signage as well, the signage was good, but it needs to be more prominent in locations. And the sanitation stations also more visible. They're present, but they need to be front and center. One of the additional requirements over the weekend that we observe is there is a big want from the public to be able to sit down and have an open air eating. Keep in mind the flea market, there is a lot of ambulatory personnel. So the family will be working with both buildings and us to submit potentially some open air eating stations located throughout the flea market. And we'll look at those and amend their recovery plan as needed, which would be the policy to add written protocols in place. And then we have asked them also to improve the signage locations in certain aspects. Next slide.
Hi, Dr. Rodriguez, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How are you estimating the number of people that go in there?
Yes, good question. And I should have included a photo of that. There's actually three stations. Each station has a quota as to how many people can enter and exit. It's based on they're counting through an app, and when that number is reached, they close that entrance or to people, but it can be used as an exit. So we had 4 people at the gates. We had six people at the gates counting through the family. And if those numbers were met, then they would not be allowed to come in. And the ticker county counters actually give reports. For example, on Saturday at 8 o'clock, we had 100 people inside. At 11 o'clock on Saturday, we got a report that there were 400 individuals. And then the 1:30 report showed a count of 600 individuals at the park. Day 2 was very similar, with us getting counts throughout the day as to how many visitors had been registered coming in that were being clocked in. They're also clocking in how many people are leaving so that we have a real live update as to what is the actual numbers.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And then the title on this is actually incorrect. What the takeaways here is that moving forward, mask compliance was really good. We can't let up on that. It needs to be a strong point that we have emphasized with the family. We did notice that social distancing was observed. There are some timeframes that we have asked our inspectors to start to look at moving forward. The 12 o'clock noon through 1:30 timeframe, which is when we saw the peak volume, is probably where you're going to see the most intense traffic, because people are coming over from the open air to the shaded areas. And potentially, if they're not wearing a mask, this is where the highest risk would be. So we will be working with the flea market operators to make sure we have the most compliance at those timeframes. Next slide. Lastly, Commissioner Galansky, one of the questions that you asked me last time was to look at the governor's order. I'll be happy to answer this when we get to that agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Does anybody have any questions?
I just want to thank the Public Health Department for the work that they've put into this. I know that you, Dr. Art, were out there at like 5 in the morning getting everything ready to observe and make sure. And just to me personally, everybody asks like, why are you so, involved in this coronavirus thing? Because I have seen firsthand, I had a best friend of 25 years die of it. I had 2 neighbors, a husband and wife, pass away from it, who were completely, perfectly healthy people. This is something that really struck hard in the city of Brownsville, and very close to people that I love. And I know that it's the same for many people in our community. So just because our numbers are going down, just because things are looking better, just because we're able to open more businesses and give these businesses opportunity to make money, doesn't mean that the threat is not still there. And I just want to remind people to be vigilant. Just because the numbers are going down right now, we don't know what's going to happen after Labor Day. We don't know what's going to happen with teachers back in school. There's so many things. I just really am grateful to the city of Brownsville for the work that you've put in to protect the public from what's going on. But I also want to make sure the public understands very clearly that by no means is this over until there's a vaccine and everybody is completely immune to this. I mean, I want to say that I've had friends who were perfectly healthy people, probably healthier than I am, who have passed away from this, and it's devastating.
Yes, ma'am. Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, I need to add to Commissioner Tetro's point. The reason our numbers have gone down, it's because of the current amendment orders. The minute we change those variables, the dynamic of cases, we believe would change drastically. And I've had conversations, and I want to emphasize the health department is here to work with our private industry. And if there's any questions there, they are more than welcome to come in and have conversations with us. And we are here to try and help them innovate through this. We realize that the pandemic has, really changed our lives in many ways, but we will continue to work with the public and try and find ways that we can do this in a very safe manner. Thank you.
I do want to say thank you as well, Dr. Rodriguez. You and your staff have done a great job with the flea market, definitely being out there and making sure that the protocols were enforced and working with the family for a couple months really on some of these. But I'm most impressed with the enforcement and everything you've done with the restaurants and some of the businesses, because I see the daily reports, and I know that your staff goes to several businesses to check up just to make sure that they're following along. And all of that work is helping to keep us and the community safe. And not everybody really knows what's happening behind the scenes, or all the work that y'all are doing, and the businesses that are getting cited for putting some people at risk, right? So I really do want to thank you for that. I know that work sometimes goes unnoticed, but I do want to say thanks, because I know you've been working really, really hard. And the protocols that the commission has put in place has really shown results. And thank you to the rest of the commission for supporting that as well.
I think when this is all over, we should send the health department, all of them, on vacation.
There's many smiling faces here right now. We
Just like
appreciate
it's
that. Thank
excited,
you.
Commissioner.
You all are awesome. I just want you to know that we appreciate everything that you do for the people of our community.
Yep.
On top of all of that, and you certainly know you have my thanks, but on top of all of that, we're probably going to see several publications in the future from the health department indicating their aggressive stance and management of this pandemic. And that's another very big feather in your cap.
Thank you, Commissioner. And the next update, I will actually include a slide on that. We are gearing up to do a report for the MMWR CDC field notes, and we've already had some interactions with Texas A&M. So thank you for that.
And I should also mention that thank you also to the business owners and restaurant owners, because the overwhelming majority, I'd say 95% or more, have been willing to comply with a lot of the protocols we've put in place. And we're all hurting, but they understand that it's for the safety of our community, and they've all been very, very good. So thanks to them as well.
Yes, sir, absolutely. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda items 1 through 13. We do, however, have to make a clarification on item number 1 on the consent agenda, which is consideration and action to authorize and execute an interlocal agreement between the City of Brownsville Police Department and Cameron County, Texas, regarding the fiscal year 2020 Edward Memorial Burn Justice Assistance Grant Program application number 2020 H8437TXDJ in the amount of, that amount should be $45,673 instead of the $48,528 that was indicated on the consent agenda item.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Appreciate that clarification. we have any motions on the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second.
If I
Any
may,
further discussion?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
We actually need an amendment for that. So if the motion could be to approve subject to that clarification or change to the item, that would work best.
Commissioner Tetra, will you make that amendment?
So move.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to public hearings. Item number 1, public hearing and action to authorize the City of Brownsville Police Department to apply for the fiscal year 2020 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Program application 2020-8437-TX-DJ in the amount of $45,673. And there is a PowerPoint for this presentation, and I believe Commander Pascal will be presenting.
Mayor, City Commission, the Brownsville Police Department is requesting commission authorization to apply for the fiscal year 2020 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, JAG program, in the amount of $45,673. The JAG program is the primary provider of federal criminal justice funding to states and units of local government. The City of Brownsville has been participating in the JAG program since it was created in 2005. Prior to this, these types of programs were called block grants. Next slide. That slide, that's correct. This year's funding is divided among the city. Going back one more. Back slide, please. Back one. Thank you. This year's funding is divided among the City of Brownsville, $33,735, and Cameron County, $11,938. There is no local match required for this program. Next slide. The Brownsville Police Department will be purchasing equipment to include a CT-40 contraband inspection kit. Next slide. 2 computer laptops and 3 pair of night vision goggles. Next slide. Requirements of this grant indicate we must provide opportunity for public review. This is a public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak on this item?
Motion to close public hearing.
We have a motion to close. I have a second.
Second.
Motion to close in a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Commander, for the presentation.
I love that his presentations are always so informative, but like to the point. Everybody should take a class from Commander Pascal. All of you. Oh.
Now we'll move on to items for individual consideration. Item 1 is consideration and action on the 12th amended declaration of local disaster for public health emergency from Helen Ramirez in the city manager's office.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commission. If you'd like to the slide, I will keep this short, Commissioner Tetro. The only notable change in this 12th amended local measure is that all city parks are reopened for engaging in physical activities with the exception of park amenities such as playground sets, fitness equipment, restrooms, and other equipment which are to remain closed. And as always, we're keeping consistent with the past measures which stated that city tennis courts and city golf center may reopen in strict compliance with the terms required by the Texas Department of State Health Services and city requirements. In addition, city trails and bike lanes can remain open. We know that they have been open. And these measures would be into effect until September 15th, which is the next city commission. That is the only notable change from the last 11th amendment. And for your consideration tonight, and I don't know, Mayor, you wanted to, and Art, if you'd like to state anything else.
Sure. Thank you, Helen, for that presentation, which was actually shorter than Commander Pascal's. But the occupancy, this order still keeps our occupancy at 25%. I know that our council had a conversation with the Attorney General's office yesterday, I believe, regarding the occupancy. So for future orders, we may look at the occupancy. That's really something that we're going to have to discuss amongst ourselves, whether or not we want to scale up or not. I think a lot of that depends on the numbers and possibly where we go the next couple of weeks. But I just wanted everybody to know that that is a discussion that was had. There was some concerns expressed by the AG's office. So I think, everything we've done up to this point has been supported by data and facts, and we'll see where we are again in a couple of weeks.
Can you explain more about what the concern from the AG was?
Certainly, Commissioner. I can do that, and then if I miss anything, Council, you can go ahead. My understanding, Commissioner Neese, is that the AG believes that the occupancy that we have at 25% is out of line with the governor's orders. They believe that we should be at 50%, or that we should allow up to 50% occupancy on some of the businesses where we reduced it. And I think that's basically it. Council, if I miss anything, please go ahead and elaborate.
No, I think you have it correctly stated that it was basically the occupancy and some of the measures, but like we discussed yesterday, Mayor, we intend to brief the commission on it so that we can so that you all can make decisions in the next declaration.
Did they threaten any legal action if we maintained it at 25%?
They are expecting a response from my office, which I will provide for them. I did discuss with them the fact that it was too short of a notice to be able to bring the information before you for this meeting, but that the information would definitely be presented to you all before the very next declaration comes up. So I think their tenor is they're being firm, but they want to work with the city, getting on the same side, which is the right side. So we'll be working with them and try to also pass the city's concerns across.
The next meeting's in 2 weeks then?
I believe so, Commissioner. Is that right?
Mr. Bernal?
Yes.
On September 15th is our next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
And these measures are consistent. They would be effective until September 15th.
And Dr. Rodriguez, you were going to mention something about the party halls, I believe.
Yes, sir. I was about to weigh in on that. The reason you don't see language on this amendment about party halls is if you on that governor's order, GH, there's actually room there for us to work with party halls. As I mentioned at the last meeting and up to now, we've actually already worked with one party hall that was able to successfully move their designation, and it's a process. And I want to encourage the public to come in and work with both the buildings department and the health department. We've been able to successfully convert Party Palooza from a designation as an event center to an entertainment grounds. And we are also working with a second building owner right now. So we feel that the language, Mayor, that's in the current order and moving forward does give us some elbow space to work with individuals out there. I think the key words here is that commissioners, if you have anyone reaching out to you, please put them in touch with us, and we'll be more than happy to take them to the process and see how we can help them innovate. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, is there somebody in particular that we should direct them to? City management, yourself, somebody else in the department?
I would say both myself and probably the buildings official and the health department. There's a lot of latitude between these different operators as far as what it is that they have, the square footage. So it's very hard to try and answer this in this platform. But once they come in, we can specifically look at what it is they have to offer and see how we can potentially work with them to innovate. So yeah, they can reach out to us at the health department to begin the process.
Thank you.
I would suggest that they reach out to Dr. Rodriguez first. And there is some exceptions. I know that that, there's some exceptions, indoor, outdoor. There's, I think, some more flexibility if the event is outdoors. There's also some flexibility with certain types of events. And I don't know whether there's any other exceptions, but I know that there's some depending on families and other things like that in the type of event especially. But I know that there's some more flexibility for outdoors as opposed to indoors. So I would just suggest that anybody that has an event, contact Dr. Rodriguez about it. And I know that they've been trying to work with some of these individuals.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You have any other questions or comments? Okay, do we have any motions?
Motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, item 2, consideration and action to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the city of Brownsville and the town of Rancho Viejo to establish an EMS/ambulance station in the town of Rancho Viejo. And we do have a PowerPoint for this.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. The item brought forth to you this evening is to request your approval to enter into an MOU agreement that will establish an EMS station in Rancho Viejo at the old volunteer fire department building there located on the expressway. Our goal is to reduce the response times in our coverage area to the north side of Brownsville and really having a straight shot down the expressway to any other areas of the city if the need were to arise. Currently, we are operating with an extra ambulance, doubling up at some of the stations, and this will give us more bed capacity and also expanding our coverage area. And there's a good opportunity because the station is already there, and it takes minimal restoration and remodeling to get it operational. We're planning for a future of, the pandemic going on and our medical responses and increasing calls and increasing capacity in ambulances with the personnel we've acquired through the SAFER grant. So this will give us an opportunity to really expand our services in the area. Currently, we're working in collaboration with Rancho Viejo. We do cover that area. We do cover the Cameron County area and North Brownsville, as well as within our city limits. We're working in collaboration with Rancho Viejo and Valley Regional Medical Center to get the station up and going. If you have any questions, I can take any questions, and Mayor Rathbun from Rancho Viejo is also on the line to answer any questions you may have.
I did see this item on the consent agenda originally, so I wanted some more information. So I asked for it to be part of an action item. But I get it. I mean, it's really an innovative, really low cost way for us to have a bigger service area, kind of north side of town. So I think it's a really good approach to almost adding another station kind of at super low cost. So I appreciate the efforts by Rancho and Chief Sheldon. Thank you. Do we have any questions for anyone? Okay, do I have any motions?
Motion to approve?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So will there be an ambulance to service that station?
Yes, we do currently have an ambulance that's being doubled up at Central Station, sometimes at Station 8. So we do have an ambulance available to service that station.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We had a motion. to have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Rathburn, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you all. To all of you in Brownsville, thanks for all you're doing during COVID. You guys are awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, item 3, consideration and action to approve the revised disadvantaged business enterprise program goals and methodology report adopted under resolution number 2020-076 as required by the Federal Transit Administration.
Good evening, mayors and city commissioners. In accordance with the USDOT and Federal Transit Administration guidelines, the city of Brownsville Metro must submit its overall disadvantaged business enterprise goal and methodology used for establishing that goal every 3 years to the Federal Transit Administration. This goal and guidelines ensures that our DBE program complies with equal opportunities to receive and participate in DOT-assisted contracts, and it also provides flexibility and good faith efforts to disadvantaged business enterprise recipients of federally funded projects. The report attached to the agenda has the overall goal at 1% based on the DOT and Federal Transit Administration methodology requirements. Staff recommends approval of the fiscal year 21, 22, and 23 goal and methodology used for Brownsville Metro's Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. You have any questions?
I'll move to approve the report.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Galosky. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4, consideration and action to award change order number 11 to Spa Glass Contractors Incorporated for the terminal project at Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport in the amount of $324,804.25.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Commissioners. I'm pretty excited to bring this one to you tonight. This is the last substantial change order that we'll be doing with our contractor. We're pulling it out of the line item marked for landscaping. The total here is $324,000. We actually had budgeted about $385,000, so we still plan on doing some additional landscaping once we get into the facility. But we did take some deductions as well on this one. So this change order actually includes about 10 different items on it that are some small adds, like a sewer connector on the south side for $7,000, a wall for $500, just some little items. But then we also got a credit of on some asphalt and some contingency on some concrete pipe. I mean, it's a bunch of little detailed items, but we kept it under that line item for landscaping. Additionally, what I would like to inform the commission is that we did receive notification, which we'll be bringing to the commission probably on the next meeting, that we were awarded the $8.5 million grant with the FAA, which would be this line item in blue towards the bottom. We budgeted about 8.4 is what our expectations were. So we're on track, both with our change orders and our grants. And we recommend the approval of this change order for $324,000 for landscaping.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I better see pretty little.
Someone needs to.
Somebody's making a smoothie.
Sounds like somebody sharpening a pencil or making a. There we go.
Okay, item 5, consideration and action to award specific and aggregate stop-loss medical insurance coverage to Unity Re/Gerber Life for plan year 2020-2021.
Good afternoon. This is Stephanie Chitata, and I'll be speaking to you this evening regarding the City of Brownsville aggregate stop loss renewal for the plan 2021. Currently, for the 1920 plan year, y'all are currently at a $250,000 specific deductible, which means each employee and their dependent with paid claims over that amount would be filing for a stop loss reimbursement. In addition to that, we have another $450,000 aggregating specific deductible. So after each individual meets their $250,000, it goes into another bucket in which the 450,000 needs to be met before we file actual claim. For the current plan year, all of that 450,000 ASD has been met. There's 3 claimants currently in the current plan year that have exceeded the specific deductible. The reimbursements filed over the 450,000 ASD to date are $17,979. So we just now met the 450,000 ASD. There is a current dependent on the city of Brownsville stop loss that is excluded for their RX claims due to their diagnosis. Additional risk this is charged to the city has been $150,582 to date. You can go on to the next slide, please. This I have kind of trended the last 6 years, including the current year. So you can see in 14, 15, 15, 16, there's no claims over the spec. The 3 years, 16, 17, and then 17, 18, 18, 19 plan year, we had a lot of claims that exceeded the spec. So what this graph is telling you is that the reimbursements have exceeded the stop loss premiums paid. And if you remember last year, I had mentioned that typically a group's going to have 3 bad years and then 2 good years. So you can see in 1920, we're barely have any reimbursements, and that is related to that 17,000. So we're over 1,800,000 or 800,000 in reimbursements. We're not even close to that. Over 800,000 in premium. We're not even close to that for reimbursement. So we're having a really good year. Next slide, please. So our loss ratios over the last 5 years are 61%. We average our last 3 years, we're at 79%. We really should be under 80. Last year, when I was showing you this, as you can see on the graph, we were 133%, 141%, 94%. And that's what drove the over 50% increase last year. You're going to be very happy with the increase this year, and it's a result of that loss ratio coming down. And the claims over filed compared to premium are only 2%. So we're hopefully trending into our second good year. Next slide, please. These are the different options that we have received. There's a number of them. I want to point to option number 1, which is the renewal. Currently have Partner Re. Their renewal at the same stop loss deductible, $250,000 with a $450,000 ASD. Their renewal is 12.40% over current. And that compared to what we're recommending is option 4 with Unity Re. Unity Re is coming in at 11.96% under current. The attachment point is also under current. So we're achieving over $100,000 in savings. The difference is Unity Re does have a laser on that same dependent that was excluded last year, but we did get them to place a laser this year. So all RX is going to accumulate towards that 925,000 laser instead of being all excluded altogether. We're anticipating right now that claimant is averaging 68,000 a month. RX trend, which is what this claimant's getting, not much medical spend, it's going to be well over 800,000 if it continues. So we believe that that laser is in line with trend going forward. So keep in mind, we are recommending option number 4 with a decrease. Next slide, please. These are the additional options that we got. A lot of options under current. There's another, we could have bumped up the deductible, but it would not have made sense when you take the additional risk between 250 to 300,000 to the number of claimants. The risk or the increase in premium would have been well absorbed, or I'm sorry, the decrease in premium would have been well absorbed with the risk. So that's not the best option for the city. Next slide, please. Notice the legal ad was placed on June 26th, also on July 3rd, according to what should have been for the public bid notice. Proposals were due July 13th, and we firmed these up with July data. We had 20 carriers that we marketed stop loss to. 2 of them did not respond. 10 of them declined for uncompetitive. And then we received our 8 initial quotes, which we were shown on the last 2 slides. Next slide, please. So again, we've got the declinations where excess loss history, uncompetitive against current rates. Not enough premium to support the risk because the last 4 years loss ratio that the city had was not comparable to the pricing. And then 1 laser, the dependent 1 diagnosis caused automatic underwriting decline for some carriers. Next slide, please. So we're recommending the renewal or for the Brownsville to renew, not option 2, I'm sorry, that's option 4. As I mentioned on the prior slide with Unity Re, with Gerber as the stop loss carrier, to remain at the 250 spec deductible that we are at today, remain including the AS, the aggregating specific deductible at 450. I do want to point out real quick, if the city has a good year and those over spec claims do not penetrate into that 450,000, then the city would save that in premium versus it loading into the premium. So that's why the ASD is another layer of risk to share with the city, which I think is favorable. This will create a $46,000 in premium savings from the current plan year premium. We achieved that almost 12% decrease, almost 1% decrease from the aggregate attachment point. And then, like I said, we can save additional $450 in risk in a good year. And then that stop loss laser 1 dependent, instead of excluding, we've achieved a laser this year. So again, we're recommending y'all vote for option number actually 4, remaining at the current terms for the 2021 stop loss plan year. Any questions? Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we now have executive session. I'll read the 3 items that are on the executive session. Item 1, consultation with attorney to receive confidential legislative advice pursuant to section 551.071, subsection 1 of the Texas Government Code on a matter related to the impending condemnation action for city land tract RGV-BRP-6200, in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter. Item 2, closed session pursuant to sections 551.071 subsection 2 and 551.087 subsection 1 Texas Government Code to consult with legal counsel regarding the city's legal rights, options, and obligations, and regarding commercial or financial information that the city of Brownsville has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city, with which the city is conducting economic development negotiations, and to deliberate financial or other incentives to the same, regarding the creation of and subsequent development in the area to constitute the Merida Espiritu Santo TIRZ. Item 3, discussion and deliberation of personnel matters pursuant to section 551.074 subsection 1 of the Texas Government Code, as well as attorney consultation pursuant to section 551.071 subsection 2 Texas Government Code, to secure legal advice with respect to the employment contract of the city manager.
Okay, do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll move that we go into executive session.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll see you all in executive session.
to make sure everyone's here. Mayor Mendez, you're present.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Cowan,
Present.
Commissioner Galonsky Pisanya,
Here.
Commissioner Munguia.
He hasn't signed on yet.
Okay, Commissioner Gowan,
Present.
Commissioner Tetro.
I'm back.
Okay, Commissioner Nee.
I'm here.
Can y'all
Okay,
hear me?
Commissioner Munguia, is that you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay.
can. Okay, so the possible action on any items discussed in executive session. We have item 1, which is consideration and appropriate action, if any, to finalize the contract extension of the city manager for the city of Brownsville. And it's 8:09 PM.
Thank you. Okay, we're back from executive session and item 1, do we have any motions?
I'd like to make a motion to extend the contract and advise city attorney to move forward.
Well, what site?
And that is with the salary and contributions requested.
With the items discussed, yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a motion to extend with the contract terms requested? Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Okay, so the motion includes the raise.
Via contribution. Is that correct, Commissioner Gowan? Is that your motion?
As we discussed, yes.
Okay.
Okay, I thought we had discussed to extend and then have the city attorney bring back a contract with terms.
The items we discussed included those items that you, I don't know whether we're supposed to spell it out or not because it was executive session. The
Will you
item-
have your motion and your second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed?
I'm going to abstain, not because I don't want him to stick around and have an extended contract, but I cannot agree on a raise when no one else got one.
Totally understandable, Commissioner. Thank you. We had those in favor, just raise your hand. I couldn't hear all of them. All right. And we know Commissioner Neese is abstaining, so motion passes. Thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Stand adjourned. Thank you all so much. Have a good night.
Stay safe, everyone.
It is now 8:11 PM and the city commission meeting, it has ended.